Blox Fruits. You've played it, I've played it, everyone's played it. It's hard to not have played it because as far back as you can probably remember, this game's been on the front page of Roblox. In this video, I'll be going over the reasons for this game's success, what it does well, what it does bad, and how they use their disadvantages as their strengths, and why it seems to stay solidified as the overall biggest Roblox game on the platform, especially in the last couple of years or so. If you do enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 250 subscribers and I'm very close, so every sub is greatly appreciated. It all started January 16th, 2019 when Blox Fruits was released for early beta and was originally uploaded under the name Blox Piece, but later changed their name due to copyright reasons. As if you didn't already know, Blox Fruits is heavily inspired by the peak fiction that is One Piece, and anime games on Roblox tend to have an extremely hard time avoiding copyright takedowns from Roblox, so the name had to be changed. When Blox Fruits first released, it was a popular game and there's no doubting that. The game didn't even struggle to keep a concurrent player count of 10,000 players, and was a strong rival for another One Piece game called King Piece, which was also changed to King Legacy for the same reasons as Blox Fruits changing their name from Blox Piece. And at the time, these two games were on top of the One Piece games for the platform. But what led Blox Fruits to be as successful as it is today, and what caused its rivals' downfall? Well, King Piece, or as it's known now, King Legacy, first released almost 2 years after Blox Fruits, but it had more of a successful start than Blox Fruits did, having around 50 to 20k players, but by this point, Blox Fruits has already had a 2-year head start on King Legacy and managed to get around 60k concurrent players, with its peak update for that year hitting 140k players, compared to King Legacy's peak update of 70k players. But there was a huge difference between what these two games were going through. If you take a look at this point here for Blox Fruits, their player count hit 170k because their game updated, and after this update a lot more people stayed on the game and their average player count heavily increased after the update compared to before the update, and this repeats for each update. Update happens, Blox Fruits hits a high player count, more of those people stay around, and this led to Blox Fruits getting a higher and higher player count, as most games that are actively updating do. But if you take a look at this graph here for King Legacy, what we see is different. King Legacy updates, they hit a high player count, but the player count dips rapidly and hits lower lows than before the update even happened. And you're probably wondering why this is. Well, King Legacy had an average big update around every 3 months or so, and Blox Fruits was updating every couple of months on average. And at this time, you're probably thinking, well, that's the mystery solved. King Legacy's downfall into where it is today is due to slow updates, but that isn't actually the case. Blox Fruits barely had a better update schedule, and both games are kind of known for their slow updates. So what exactly caused King Legacy to fall off so badly? Well, if we take a look at King Legacy's most recent update notes, you can see there's a very small amount of actual content added to the game. And even with stuff like fruit changes, fruits added, reworks, or anything like that, for people who've already played and completed the game, there's no aspect of the game that are going to make people want to come back. The only thing that's going to make people actually want to come back is something incredibly new, something different. And a lot of players never received any good content in their updates once they completed the game, nothing worth coming back to the game, and eventually people stopped caring about updates. And when people stop caring about updates, they stop coming back to the game, so they don't even hit new peaks when they update. Their player count goes back up to what their average used to be when they update, and this is basically the case for King Legacy, and currently it's on about 5k players and it's pretty much dead. The game actually rolled out some pretty nice quality updates, and I would argue that their quality is a lot better than Blox Fruits, but the fact that their game just isn't as grindy and there isn't anything worth grinding for. In Blox Fruits, there's a heavily PvP based system that you want to grind to get the best stuff for. In King Legacy, the PvP just isn't the same, the bounty just doesn't matter as much, and it's just a whole different system. Maybe you awaken a fruit and then you're pretty much done with the game. You can throw it to the side and then no updates are worth bringing you back to the game. And the game currently sits on 5 to 10k players, which is where it will probably stay, if not decline even more than where it is now. But apart from Blox Fruits winning over their rival in the One Piece Roblox game field, what else solidifies Blox Fruits' position at the top of the platform? As it not only rose above the two other big One Piece games, King Legacy and a bit of a smaller one, GPO, but it also rose above all anime games, and it's also risen to the top of the platform altogether pretty much. Well, with Blox Fruits there's a few reasons. Firstly, there is a ton of different things to do in the game and a lot of content. From the PvP to the swords to devil fruits to awakening fruits, and the crazy amount of exploration to be done across 3 different maps, containing crazy amounts of different islands. But one thing Blox Fruits kind of does really well is turning its flaw into an advantage. What I mean by this is the fact that Blox Fruits is probably one of the most grindy games I've ever played in my life, but the way in which it's grindy is very unique. The mastery is a subtle way that Blox Fruits keeps you playing, as your combat is basically limited and locked until you do enough grinding on that piece of utility. Let's say a devil fruit, for example. You need to kill a ton of bosses to get 25 mastery on your devil fruit. So this just keeps the player grinding continuously because you can't really hop off the game until you've tried your new move. But this happens for every single thing you pick up in the game, and it just keeps you farming over and over again because there's a small goal in mind, and that's one thing Blox Fruits does really well. You have an end goal for when you finish the game, which is basically just finishing the game or getting a really good PvP build, but there's also short-term goals to keep the players engaged and keep them grinding consistently. And if you reset your fruit, you have to keep getting new mastery, and it just keeps you grinding over and over, and it's pretty much an infinite loop until you finish the game, and then you're just grinding something completely different after that. But on top of this grinding loop players find themselves in, there's also an insanely hard to obtain awakened fruit, which makes players that have completed the game want to grind and have these for power. People are always allowed to combat, and getting killed on repeat while you're grinding is very annoying. So most players experience some form of combat whether they wanted to or not, and eventually players get the urge to fight other people. But since they want the best odds of winning, an optimal PvP loadout with a meta sword, a meta fighting style, and a meta powerful awakened fruit is what you would aim for. And this process, on top of the insanely long process of getting max level, leads to players non-stop grinding. And when players have school or other factors in their lives to deal with, and maybe a few hours a day to play, this probably takes weeks and weeks, maybe even months and months to fully finish getting all the gameplay out of the game. And when you've got all the content out of the game, Blox Fruits will probably release an update by then, and then you've got to grind all over again for brand new meta stuff. Blox Fruits is also a heavily community-driven game, with countless players playing the game with friends or playing with random online people to trade, PvP, awaken fruits, grind bosses, and countless other things. And if you've ever played with friends or other people before, you know that you can take an average game or average experience and have a very fun time if you're just playing with other people. And with the absolute huge player count and Discord server that Blox Fruits has, it's pretty much impossible to not have the option of playing with other people. And this is what the game does really well. A lot of small games with aspects like trading and PvP struggle to have a strong community just because there's not enough people to do these online things with. But because Blox Fruits is pretty much a titan and stands above all other games, all community-driven features are just at their best and at their peak at all times. Next thing Blox Fruits does incredibly well is their updates. They keep a perfect balance of supply and demand, rolling out high quality and not too frequent updates without any game-changing factors that may annoy their players or make the game too complicated for any new players to get into the game, while still keeping a very good balance of content added to the game. And recently in their updates, they've been making subtle changes to the quality of the game and make the experience just feel smoother. For example, what they did with the new fruits, making them look less like a default Roblox asset, and now it's a smooth animated cool model for each fruit that's in the game. So effectively, Blox Fruits has mastered updates. Not too much, not too little, not too frequent, not too slow, and they keep it simple enough to not affect the overall balance of updates in the game. Now, one thing you're probably wondering is how a One Piece game has taken a non-anime platform by storm and completely overshadowed normal games on the platform. And this reasoning I can't exactly back up with much research because there's no way to do so, but I'm pretty sure the game is so much bigger than any other anime game has ever gotten before because it's subtle with the fact it references One Piece, and it therefore attracts a large amount of non-anime fans and anime fans together, creating the biggest game community possible. And if you've watched One Piece, you probably think I'm wrong, and the game isn't subtle about taking from One Piece, as it's the entire One Piece world, story, bosses, swords, etc. But what I mean is, when you load into the game, there's nothing that screams that this is based off an anime or a show, and players don't struggle to understand any part of the game without watching One Piece, so a majority of players can probably play it and not even realize it's a reference to a whole show. And this just makes the game bigger than any other game I can think of, because I think anyone can find using the powers and playing in a world that's that enjoyable a fun time, and I think it reaches one of Roblox's biggest demographic, which is children. These are all the main reasons I think Blox Fruits is such a successful game. If you do disagree with anything or want to correct me on anything that I got wrong, or even give me feedback, feel free to do so in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye.